You are now watching Surveillance. Donate or subscribe for more sick twists.
Hello to all my brothers in arms, my patrons of the light. Thanks for joining me for my Phase 5 Sunwell Plateau BiS gear guide. Now there's a lot to get into here, so first off, I just want to thank my patrons. Really appreciate everything you guys have done for me. Helps me kind of spend a little bit more time on these videos and kind of increase the production quality. So thanks again to all my patrons who helped me get here. With that being said, there are two sets that you might end up using in Sunwell. Both are pretty competitive. You can really go with either one. I have my preference. So there's a lot to get into. Hopefully the video doesn't go too long. I know it's already going to be longer than my Phase 3 video, but I'm trying to keep it under half an hour. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so first we have the Helm slot, where you will gain about 35 DPS, and you can go with either a haste centered build or an armor penetration centered build. You can either go with the Duplicitous Guise, or you can go with the Coif of Valyria. Both of these are great items. Duplicitous Guise is a little bit easier to acquire, a little bit less contested, and if you're going for a more haste centered build, Duplicitous Guise is going to be one of those items that you want to prio at the top of your list, because it's a hit item and it allows us to replace Midnight Chest or Tier 6 chest piece with one of the Sunwell options. Now, Duplicitous Guise has 30 hit. When you pair that with the Helm enchant and the socket bonus, that's hit cap right there if you have improved Fairy Fire. So this is the only hit item you need for the haste set to get hit cap. That's why you want to prio it so high, because it doesn't require hit on any other items of gear, and you're able to replace the hit from your chest piece with one of the much better Sunwell chest pieces, none of which really have hit. Now, the Crown of Anasterion is another helm from Kil'jaeden that is pretty decent. It's not as good as the other two helms, but it's an alright upgrade from Tier 6 items. That being said, you should probably pass this to warriors first, but if they already have it and you still are using Forest Prowler's Helm or Sunwell Engineering Goggles, this is a worthy upgrade. This helm is especially good if you have some of the other ARPEN set items, allowing you to get closer to 700 or more armor penetration. So the Mayhem Projection Goggles are the new upgraded version of the Engineering Goggles that come out from Sunwell. The pattern, I believe, comes from Sunwell Trash Drops. Now, these are a really sick pair of goggles, especially really early on. If you don't have Curse Vision of Sargeras, you probably want to pick up these goggles, and maybe even still if you do have Curse Vision. It's about 1 DPS less than Curse Vision on the sim, however it has a little bit extra hit, which is actually really helpful when you get a chest piece upgrade. If you don't have Duplicitous Guise yet, you can actually get hit cap just from having the goggles, the Helm enchant, and a hit gem. So they're actually really helpful with having a little bit of extra hit if you get a chest piece upgrade early on. And that being said, I think everybody should craft a pair of these goggles if you're engineering, because they're just a really solid early upgrade. Alright, so for a 30 to 42 DPS gain, we have our neck upgrades. Now, best in slot is going to be Clutch of Demise. This drops from Brutalis, and it is very highly contested. However, if you are a jewel crafter, you can skip the wait by crafting the Trash Drop Pattern neck Hardcorium Choker, which is an armor penetration and haste neck, and is slightly better than Clutch of Demise by 8 to 12 DPS. Depending on if you go for the armor penetration set or the haste set, it's a little bit better with the armor penetration set because it has armor penetration on it. Now, I will talk a little bit later on about professions and which ones are best, and my recommendation on which professions to go, but JC is absolutely a viable profession, and if you want to have the max possible damage on a single target fight, you're going to want the JC neck. Talk more about that a little bit later. Now, Clutch of Demise is very highly contested, and there's not really a great alternative, so you may want to put this somewhere in the middle to the high end of your priority list. Now, while it's not a perfect alternative, it is an upgrade from the SSC Trash Drop Neck Pendant of the Perilous. You can get, if you are Aldor, you can get the Shattered Sun Pendant of Might, which requires being exalted with the Aldor, and the Shattered Sun Offensive, which is the new faction from the Sunwell Isle. It's a pretty decent upgrade. It's still 20 DPS behind Clutch of Demise, but it has this really nice 200 AP proc that procs every 45 seconds and gives a nice solid boost to DPS. If you are still using the Pendant of the Perilous from SSC Trash, you're probably going to want to pick this up. If you're Scryers, this neck really just is not worth using. Instead of having a AP proc, what it's actually going to do is just do a small amount of damage when it procs, and it's a lot less worth using as a Scryers. Alright, next we have Shoulders. Not the most important slot, but a pretty decent upgrade of about 23 DPS. For the haste set, you're going to want to go with Pauldrons of Berserking, and for the armor pen set, you're going to want to go with Demon Tooth shoulder pads. Now, these are both pretty similar shoulders. You can kind of mix and match. This is sort of the one slot where I would say it's okay to mix and match. The armor pen set could use Berserking, the haste set could use Demon Tooth. You will only really suffer a couple DPS if you do so. These are pretty close. They're pretty much neck and neck in the sim, so don't worry about it too much. The Demon Tooth shoulders are a lot more contested than the Berserking shoulders are. That being said, that's pretty much all there is to say about shoulders. Let's move on to cape. Alright, so Cloak of Unforgivable Sin is basically the only physical damage cloak in all of Sunwell. All the physical DPS want it, it's super highly contested, and it's going to give you almost 40 DPS. Pretty nice cape, not any alternatives, so there's nothing else really to say. You might want to put this somewhere in the middle to the high end of your prio, because there's really just no good alternative to this cape. Okay, so chest piece, really big slot, really huge upgrade. Our BiS chest piece is going to be Bladed Chaos Tunic. Now, a lot of you are coming from Midnight Chest or Tier 6 chest, and so you're going to lose some hit, and you're going to have to make up that hit elsewhere, hopefully from Leggings of Immortal Knight or from Duplicitous Guise. But if you can't make up the hit anywhere else, a good option is going to be NG Goggles. Now, a good second BiS chest piece would be War Harness of Reckless Fury. It's a nice haste chest piece. It's about 20 DPS behind the Bladed Chaos Tunic, but it's going to be a lot easier to grab. The only person that might contest it would be a Fury or a Prot Warrior. Now, you also have the Blacksmithing and the Leatherworking alternative. The Carapace of Sun and Shadow is a nice pick for leatherworking. It's pretty close to Bladed Chaos Tunic, and it has that nice hit rating, allowing it to be a solid hit choice because you can use this in a Helm enchant and a Shadow Lapse gem, and you'll be hit capped. Also, for Blacksmithing, you have the Hardcorium Battle Plate, which is very close to Bladed Chaos Tunic as well. It's only slightly worse, less than 10 DPS worse. It's a good ARPEN chest. If you want to go for the ARPEN set, it might be worth picking up the Blacksmithing chest, Hardcorium Battle Plate. Alright, so coming in with an absolutely massive 60 DPS upgrade is the tier 6.5 bracers. Honestly, I'm going to say that these should be Ret Prio. A lot of melee get expertise on a piece of their tier 6.5, but we get expertise on all three, and as you might know from some of my other videos, Ret Paladins gain the most damage per expertise. So I'm going to say that this should be Ret Prio. The 3 tier pieces alone add over 200 DPS. So they are just absolutely massive. There is no alternative that comes anywhere close to any of these items. And it's really just straightforward. You need to get the tier. And luckily in Sunwell, each boss drops 3 pieces of tier. Now, gloves are really interesting because for some reason, Blizzard decided to add 2 gloves that are almost identical. So either one of these is going to be 42, 43 DPS. The Lassian Ranger gauntlets drop from Kil'jaeden, and the gloves of Immortal Dusk are crafted. So obviously you should go with the crafted ones, right? I mean, it's 1 DPS less, but you can have it pretty much week 1. So everybody should really be using gloves of Immortal Dusk. The Thalassian Ranger gauntlets are technically BiS, but they're only very slightly, it's like literally 1 DPS, so everybody should probably just stick with the gloves of the Immortal Dusk and let somebody else have the Thalassian Ranger gauntlets. Okay, so for belt, we have another piece of our lovely, lovely tier 6.5. This belt is just insane. I mean, look at it. It's basically Belt of 100 Deaths, but with way better stats. It's got the same expertise as Belt of 100 Deaths, but it's got Strength, Crit, and Haste, which are just amazing stats. Also, it's 55 DPS, which is like insane. So, you know, for example, I asked some of my Warlock friends, and they said the highest damage they get from any of their tier pieces is 40 DPS, and you know, our lowest is 55. So once again, I'm going to say this is Ret Prio item. It's very important. It's something you want to prioritize very, very highly. It's just an amazing piece, and that's really all there is to say. Alright, so clocking in at like 60 DPS are the leg options. The first one is Fel Fury leg plates. These are from Brutalis. These are going to be BiS for the Haste set. And then you have Leggings of Immortal Knight. These are from Felmist. And these will be BiS for the ARPEN set. Now, this is a pretty important slot if you're going to go ARPEN. This item is pretty much your hit, all the hit that you're going to need, and you can't really replace your chest piece until you get the hit somewhere else. This is essentially the only hit item that you need in the ARPEN set. So you're definitely going to want to pick up these legs if you're going for the ARPEN build. They are pretty important. The Fel Fury leg plates are less important for the haste set, but they are still a really big upgrade. So alright, so bringing in an absolutely freaking massive 75 DPS gain is our tier 6.5 boots. This is the biggest tier item of all of them. That it has expertise. You can probably take your tier item expertise that you've gained and replace some of those old items like Shapeshifter Signet or Shatrith leggings if you're still using them, or shoulder pads of the Stranger. You know, you could like drop Shapeshifters for a double Band of Devastation, and that in that regard, all 3 of these tier items are basically a double upgrade, because the expertise they give you allows you to drop some of these old like phase 1 and phase 2 expertise items that you might still be using, and go with some like pure damage option like a Band of Devastation or like a Swift Strike Shoulders or something to that effect. So this, you know, these items are absolutely huge, and in my opinion should be Ret Prio. No class gains anywhere close to 75 DPS on their tier, especially not like like this. You know, expertise and everything is crazy, so I'm definitely going to recommend that you put this very, very high on your priority. This is probably number 1 for me. Okay, so a much less important slot is the ring slot. You're going to have 2 rings here. Hardcore Band, which is crafted. Any jewel crafter can make this, and then it's BOE, so they can trade it to you. And then you have the Band of Ruinous Delight. This is from Iridar Twins. This is like the best ring for physical DPS in the game, and every single physical DPS wants it. Although it's not a crazy big upgrade compared to some of the other upgrades this phase. So it's not a super important slot for us or anything. And you can get Hardcore Band for free basically, but there is no real great alternative to the Band of Ruinous Delight. So if you don't have one, you'll probably be stuck with like a Band of Devastation or an Unstoppable Aggressor's ring, because that's really the next best ring. So up to you how high you want to prioritize this, but for me, it's pretty low on the prio list. Okay, so trinkets are a little bit complicated. The first trinket slot is very obvious. It's Shard of Contempt, which is a dungeon drop. It's from the new dungeon, Magister's Terrace. You'll have to run it once normal, and then you can run heroic and farm this trinket. You'll probably be in there every day with people of your guild trying to get the best trinkets, because the boss in there, Princess Delrissa, she drops like 3 of the best trinkets in the game. So I would definitely recommend doing a lot of Magister's Terrace heroic when Sunwell comes out, and farming Shard of Contempt. It's like a 60-65 DPS upgrade. It's pretty huge, and you're never going to take it off. If you're human or non-human, it doesn't matter. You're going to use Shard of Contempt for the rest of the game. It's just that good. Even, you know, when humans get all 3 pieces of their tier 6.5, they go over the expertise cap a bit. So we used to think that you would replace Shard of Contempt at that point and use Blackened Naaru Sliver, but actually the sim says that it's better to just keep on Shard of Contempt even if it's putting you over the expertise cap. You'll be about 5 expertise over the cap at 31, but you still want to use it. So Shard of Contempt is obvious, everybody wants to use that. DST is going to be BiS for the ARPEN set, and Blackened Naaru Sliver is going to be BiS for the HASTE set. And I'll explain a little bit more about Blackened Naaru Sliver in the next little bit of the video, but it has to be min-maxed to get the most out of it. If you aren't going to min-max the proc, then you probably should not use it at all. Essentially, you have to stack it fast as possible, the AP proc, and doing that requires you to play it a little bit differently, which I'll talk about in a second here. So Shard and DST if you're going for the ARPEN set, and then Shard and Blackened Naaru Sliver if you're going for the HASTE set. And if you are going for the HASTE set, you might want to put Blackened Naaru Sliver a little bit higher up on your prio than some other items, especially if you're going to min-max it. Okay, so unfortunately our weapon is kind of underwhelming this phase. For some reason they made Apollyon, the Soul Render, our BiS weapon, a 3.4, which is like unusually fast. It has a lot of great stats on it. Ton of AP, a ton of haste, 3 gem slots. So the stats are great, but the speed is pretty bad. However, it is BiS. It'll be a little bit trickier to twist under a lot of haste with this because of how fast it is, but you will get the hang of it. You will get used to it and you will succeed and thrive because I believe in you. So if you are a non-human, you can use Shivering Fellspine, but also if you are a human and you have all 3 pieces of your tier 6.5, the belt, the boots, and the bracers, and you have Shard of Contempt, you're over the expertise cap by 31. And so the thing is, if you use Torch or if you use Fellspine, your expertise is going to be exactly the same. So in that specific circumstance, humans can also use Shivering Fellspine for a temporary upgrade. it's kind of something that you would just use on your way to getting an Apollyon to drop. Now, I think hunters in some circumstances want Shivering Fellspine, so they will compete for this item, but it is a trash drop, and you can farm trash in Sunwell pretty easily. So if you haven't got a torch yet, this is a great pickup. Alright, so you guys already all know about this, right? I mean, when I said this thing was BiS for the entire game, I wasn't kidding. Libram of Avengement is from Heroic Blood Furnace. Yeah, so that's it. Okay guys, so I'm going to give you a little bit of supplementary information about Blackened Naaru Sliver, because we used to think this trinket wasn't that great, but it seems to be a lot better now. So it is always worth using with the haste set, and it is not good for the ARPEN set. I mean, it's good, it's just not BiS. It's worse than DST for the haste, or for the ARPEN set. So for the haste set, it varies compared to DST. It can be anywhere from -5 to +40 DPS versus DST. You have to kind of min-max it, and I'll explain how. So if you never delay your CS in order to finish a twist, it's up to 5 DPS worse than DST. If you do delay up to 2.5 seconds your CS in order to like twist again and then CS after, during the proc you can actually stack the AP faster, and then you can get up to 40 DPS. I would say it's going to be around 30 DPS for most people that are delaying their CS. So I would say the average would be around 30, but you can get all the way up to 40 if you twist more, basically, when you get the proc. You would most of the time want to twist twice in a row and then CS afterwards. Now the thing is that you're hitting a very specific haste breakpoint with Blackened Naaru Sliver and all the haste set gear, where if you do your CS at the wrong time, it'll cost you 2 swings where you won't be able to twist. And the way that you avoid this is by delaying your CS to be able to twist an extra time, and making sure that if you're going to use CS, it's right at the start of your auto attack. Because if it's not like right there, you're going to screw up your ability to twist for like 2 autos. So when you have all this haste from the entire haste set, and you have Blackened Naaru Sliver, when you get the proc, you want to not CS and keep twisting until it's exactly off cooldown, and you can use it right at the beginning of the auto attack. And that way you're going to stack the AP from this trinket faster, and you'll be able to get all the way up to 40 DPS, which is a pretty substantial upgrade. Now the haste set is going to gain more DPS from this trinket. It's just overall the haste set with this trinket is actually slightly better than the ARPEN set by up to 10 DPS. The ARPEN set, however, is going to gain more from Shard and DST than any other combination, including Blackened Naaru Sliver. So Shard and DST, stick to that if you're going for the ARPEN set. That's like your one concession, is that if you go for the ARPEN set, you want these more highly sought after items that everybody's competing on, but at least you don't want this trinket. So this item is extremely contested, although the jury's still out on how hunters feel about this trinket. What I've heard is that if you get Thoridal, then Hunter would use this trinket over DST, but not until they have the legendary bow. Now, I don't know how true that is. I guess I'll have to wait and see. But this item should be min-maxed, okay? If you use this item, you should be min-maxing it, which generally means delaying your CS up to 2.5 seconds if it allows you to gain another twist. So most of the time when you're not lusted, you're going to twist, and then you're going to CS, and then you're going to twist, and you're going to CS, and you're going to alternate like that. But when this thing procs, you're more likely going to want to twist, twist, CS. Twist, twist, CS, and do 2, and then CS. Back-to-back twists, right? This is going to help you stack it faster, but it depends, honestly, on what your weapon speed is. If your weapon speed is really, really fast, you're probably just going to stack it, like, right away anyway. But if you're, like, not lusted, you might want to change the way you play and not use Crusader Strike unless it's exactly off cooldown right after a twist. So that is how you get the most out of this trinket. If you have any questions, let me know. I know it's a little bit confusing, it's a little bit complicated, and I'm trying not to spend too much time on this because it's honestly, it's so complicated that if you want to come to the Discord and talk about it with me anytime, you guys are welcome to do that. I'm trying to summarize it and simplify it as much as I can, so I hope this is easy enough for you guys to understand. If you get this trinket, you want to maximize it, you want to optimize the proc and do everything you can to stack that faster, and if you can do that, it's a really great trinket and actually a substantial upgrade. So thanks everybody. Let's move on to Haste versus ARPEN. Okay, so the argument between haste and armor penetration is honestly, it's kind of meaningless, the difference between these two. So under optimal conditions in full BiS gear, the haste set is going to be very, very slightly better, like less than 10 DPS, and that's only under perfect conditions where you play absolutely perfectly, you stack up your BNS as fast as possible, etc, etc, etc. These two sets most of the time are pretty close. The haste set is also significantly less contested and much easier to acquire. The helm slot and leg slot especially are going to be a lot easier to get. You're not competing with so many people on them. Now there are some conditions that'll skew towards one set or the other. Conditions that would skew in favor of the ARPEN set up to 25 DPS or so is if you don't have Blackened Naaru Sliver trinket that we just talked about, or on a low armor boss, on a shorter fight, less than 3 minutes, if you have a Polyon because it's faster, or on fights with unlimited filler, unlimited mana to spend on filler spells. Like, for example, Muru probably is one of those fights where you can filler a ton because you're taking damage constantly. I know Felmist is also one of those fights. In Caligos, you also get a lot of mana return, so but this would not be fights like Brutalis, for example. When you don't delay CS in order to twist more, you can also favor the ARPEN set a little bit more. If you never really delay your CS, if you just CS as soon as possible, the ARPEN set will be a little bit stronger. Now, things that would favor the haste set up to 10 DPS more than the ARPEN set is if you have Torch instead of Apollyon, or if you have Blackened Naaru Sliver trinket, or both. And if you're min-maxing the Blackened Naaru Sliver trinket, you have to be min-maxing it, or on a high armor boss, or on a longer fight, 3 minutes plus, or on fights with limited mana to cast on filler spells, like on Brutalis, right? You're not really taking much damage. It's like a long fight. It's almost 6 minutes. I mean, even some of the better guilds are barely breaking 5 minutes, so that's kind of a long fight, especially if you want to exorcism the whole time. So on a fight like that, the haste set would be a little bit better, and it's also, high armor boss, so when you delay your CS up to 2.5 seconds in order to twist more, depending on different factors, if you find yourself doing that a lot, where my CS is coming up at the end of my auto attack, but I'm going to delay it a little bit so that I can twist here, if you tend to do that, then you're going to min-max your trinket, first of all, but also you're just going to gain some DPS even if you don't have that trinket, and that's going to be one of the things that favors haste up to 10 DPS. Now, this is a very small gap between the two sets. You could really go for either one, and it's not going to make it's not going to be a big deal. Although I would say the haste set is probably going to gear up faster because the items are significantly less contested. But if you want to go for the ARPEN set, I mean, go for it, man. I'm going to recommend personally the haste set, but you could also go for the ARPEN set. Humans are going to gain just very slightly more from the ARPEN set. Non-humans will gain a little bit more from the haste set, but it's very, very small. We're talking single-digit differences. Either race can go with either set, so it's very, very, very marginal. Outside of like the shoulder slot, though, you should not really mix and match the sets. You wouldn't want to go like Coif of Valyria and then also get Fel Fury leg plates. It just wouldn't work, and your DPS is gonna take a hit. So you kind of want to go like all or nothing. You either go all for the haste set or you go all for the ARPEN set. The only slot that you can really take either one is the shoulder slot, because it's not going to have a huge impact. They're both pretty close either way. You might lose 5, 6, 7 DPS, but it's not going to hurt as much as some of the other items would. So you can really go with either set, just don't really mix and match them outside of like maybe the shoulders. Also, there is an argument to be made that some of these armor penetration items are better distributed to other classes who might gain more than us. And, you could have that argument. I'm not really interested in getting down with that discussion right now, but it's it's a valid argument. So also, you got to understand that if you take Leggings of the Immortal Knight, that means a rogue or a hunter isn't going to get it and maybe give the raid more DPS. So that's also one thing to consider, but you can really honestly go either way. Alright, so for professions, I mean, I get asked this all the time. What are Phase 5 professions going to look like? And honestly, there's 5 great options. So Jewel Crafting, you get the Hardcore Choker Necklace. Enchanting, you get the 4 stats to Rings Enchant. Engineering, you get the Mayhem Rejection Goggles and Explosives. Leatherworking, you get the Carapace of Sun and Shadow chest piece. And then Blacksmithing, you get the Hardcore Battle Plate. So you can take any 2 of these professions except for Leatherworking and BS. You don't want to pair those together because they both give you a chest piece, right? If you want to do the best single target DPS, very, very slightly the best on like single target boss by less than 10 DPS, you're going to want to go for Hardcore Choker and you want to go JC Enchanting for the 4 stats to Rings. Okay, that's going to be the best on a single target, but if you want to do the best on trash and overall, and you want your NG goggles, then you want to go with Engineering and Enchanting. Enchanting is a given because it's the highest DPS profession, but Engineering is great for Muru when you have like ads, or kill Jaden when you need to kill the illusions. It's very, very good on those fights. So I'm going to stick to Engineering and Enchanting. That's my recommendation, is to go with those 2 as they're, in my opinion, the best. But if you want to parse really hard and you want every little piece of DPS you can get on a single target boss, then you could go with JC. Or if you want like an early, really, really good chest piece, where you can upgrade your chest piece to a really good one that's almost the best in the game, like week 1, week 2, then you could go with Leatherworking or Blacksmithing. Leatherworking especially, like the hit on the chest can be very, very useful gearing up. So that's really all there is to it. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's nice to be able to pick between all the different professions. However, if you don't have like a drummer in your group, somebody that's using drums with battle, you definitely want to go Leatherworking. Just putting that out there in case anybody doesn't already know that. But outside of that, Engineering, Enchanting, my recommendation. You can really pick whatever you want. Just don't go Leatherworking and Blacksmithing. Okay, and because I know some of you guys are going to ask about this, even though it's very, very simple, if you need 6% hit, you don't have a Boomkin or a Dream State or any type of improved Fairy Fire, and you need 3% more hit to get hit cap, You just want to equip either Duplicitous Guise or Leggings of the Immortal Knight, whichever one you don't have already, plus Choker of Endless Nightmares. So you basically, if you're the haste set, you already have Duplicitous Guise, you would add Leggings of the Immortal Knight and a Choker of Endless Nightmares. Or if you're the ARPEN set, you already have Leggings of the Immortal Knight, you would add Duplicitous Guise. Does that make sense? This is what's best for DPS, but I'll give you some more reasonable hit options here. So if you can't get your hands on some of the other hit items that we have, then you could get your hands on maybe one of these. Stormrage Signet Ring, Hardcore Battle Fists, Carapace of Sun and Shadow. These are the 3 other hit alternatives that are really good. Stormrage Ring is obviously from Illidan and highly contested. The other 2 are crafted. Carapace is actually a crafted BOP, so you have to be leatherworking to wear it. It also has leatherworking on the tooltip, so you can't do it if you don't have leatherworking. Hardcore and Battle Fists, however, are bind on equip, so you can have any blacksmith make them for you. Great hit option right there. So I'm not going to have like any sets down in the description or anything for 6% hit, because it's pretty straightforward. You just add Leggings of the Immortal Knight or Duplicitous Guise plus Choker of Endless Nightmares, and then if you don't have one of those items, you can substitute any of these 3 items. Thank you guys so much for watching. I had a blast putting this video together and just doing all the math that it took to get this figured out. Once again, thanks to all my patrons: Mixter, Westy, Kazus, Minister, Snoxy, Amiria, Thalvius, Dark Knight, Rouge, Kitty Exorcism, Splode, and the Martyr. Love you guys rock. Hope to see you guys next time at the next video. I don't know what my plans are for Wrath yet, but I will let you guys know as soon as I figure them out. Thanks a lot for all you guys have done for me, sharing the video, liking, commenting, subscribing, all that. So thanks again, guys. We'll see you next time. Happy twisting. Stay with the light. The light will guide you, my brothers in arms. Thanks again. See ya.